You are watching the World 24/7 on the NDTV network. I am Parmeshwar Bawa. An action-packed bulletin lined up for you. Let's begin with the top headlines you need to know. India is close to finalising an interim free trade agreement with the United States, sources have told NDTV, and said an announcement is expected by September or October. At least 20 people were killed and over 160 injured when a Bangladesh Air Force plane hit a school and college campus in Dhaka. The government in Bangladesh has set up a high-level probe panel to establish the cause of the Air Force jet crash. US Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley released declassified documents related to the FBI's investigation into former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's private email server when she served in the federal government, revealing the FBI reportedly failed to fully investigate the matter. British Royal Navy's F-35B will bid goodbye to Kerala and fly out after being grounded for 5 weeks at the Thiruvananthapuram International Airport. Gita Gopinath, the number 2 official at the International Monetary Fund, will leave her post at the end of August to return to Harvard University. A big focus, India is close to finalising an interim free trade agreement with the United States, sources have informed NDTV, and said an announcement is expected by either September or October. Indian negotiators returned from the US on Saturday after a 5th round of talks, and a team of American officials is now expected in India in mid-August as both sides race to secure a provisional deal before Donald Trump's August 1st deadline for imposition of fresh tariffs. Now, apart from the tariff on steel, issues related to agriculture and automobiles have also been discussed. And India sources have informed us that India has hardened its position on the US's demand for duty concessions in the dairy sector, something we've been extensively covering as well. India has not given any FTA partners such concessions, but Rishabh Bhatnagar has been tracking all the insider details for us. He joins us live with a quick update at the moment. Rishabh, we're picking up from our sources that an India-US free trade mini deal is likely by October or September?
Right, Parmeshwar, that's the first tranche of the deal that was slated for September or October. That is in the public domain. President Donald Trump and Prime Minister Modi, both of them had said that the first tranche of this deal should be done by the fall of 2025, which is September or October. So that is something that has been on track for a while. What was a sticking point was these tariff deadlines. First, it was July 9th. Now it's August 1st. And we were expecting some sort of a mini trade deal around the July 4th mark. That did not happen. We're now expecting something around the August 1st mark, which is basically to say that India and the US have reached some sort of an agreement wherein the US will not be implementing these tariffs that it has been implementing on various other trading partners. So all the talk right now is focused on that August 1st deadline and whether or not India and the US will be able to reach some sort of a deal with regards to tariffs not being imposed on India. That is something that is crucial in the next week or so. Like you said, a 6th round of in-person negotiations is set in New Delhi. Yeah.
Right. Rishabh, also, let's just look at a different scenario for a second, not to be pessimistic, but even if a mini deal is not possible and the Trump administration imposes this 26% tariff that was announced on the 2nd of April, the impact on India will not be so significant, right?
So the impact part, Parmeshwar, it all depends on the sort of tariffs that are levied on other manufacturing economies, right? It has to be a tariff differential that is in India's favor so that India retains relative competitiveness. So even though there might be some sort of a tariff that might come in, it should be lower than that of, let's say, Indonesia or Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, Bangladesh. All of these countries compete with India in various manufacturing sectors like textile, leather, footwear. So it is sectors like these where India is looking for sustained preferential advantage over all of these countries. So that is what is that is something that India is chasing. Also, what India is chasing is assurance that no fresh tariffs will be introduced once some sort of a deal is in between India and the US. Because like we've seen with copper, we've seen with pharma, we've seen a new 10% BRICS tariff threat come in. So all of these are additional tariff threats that are not sitting right with Indian negotiators, and rightly so, given that if you have a trade deal that is being negotiated, then new or fresh tariffs should not become a part of it later.
Of course. Rishabh, thanks so much for joining us with the latest details and contextualizing the key flashpoints for us. The other crucial headline we're tracking, the UK government will begin enforcing the first phase of immigration reforms from today as part of its wider policy agenda outlined in the immigration white paper that was titled Restoring Control Over the Immigration System. Now, these latest measures aimed at reducing net migration include a narrower list of sponsor-eligible jobs and a ban on overseas hiring in the care sector. The white paper that was actually published on the 12th of May signals the government's intent to make it more difficult to move to and settle in the UK. Now, you must note the white paper does not actually itself change immigration law. Several of its proposals are already being actioned through changes to immigration routes. Basically, the Home Office in the UK will implement two key reforms. The first being reduce skilled worker occupation lists. So employers will no longer be allowed to sponsor overseas workers for roles that are classified as medium skilled. Secondly, there'll be an end of international recruitment for care workers. So employers will be barred from recruiting care workers from overseas under the skilled worker route, and those already sponsored by that date will not be affected. Let's get you a quick update from the United States now. A newly unveiled Department of Justice internal investigation charges that the FBI sloppily investigated Hillary Clinton's 2016 email server scandal, resulting in an incomplete probe. The politically devastating investigation into the then presumed Democratic presidential nominee was ended in 2016 after then FBI Director James Comey announced that his agency would not recommend charges for Clinton after she used a personal server to store government emails, an infraction many Republicans argued was a crime. But an internal review of the FBI's investigation that finished in 2018 by the DOJ's Office of the Inspector General found that not every stone was unturned. That 35-page addendum published on Monday by the Senate Judiciary Committee says the FBI failed to complete a thorough and complete investigation after the OIG uncovered a thumb drive full of government emails that was actually never investigated by Comey. It does not, though, specify how many of Clinton's emails were left untouched. For further clarity on the matter, we have with us senior journalist Ray Locker. Ray, always a pleasure to have you on NDTV. Your first thoughts on this document alleging a lack of effort and due diligence in the FBI's investigation into former Secretary Clinton's email usage and also mishandling of highly classified information?
You know, I think this so-called scandal, there was nothing there in 2016. There's nothing there now. This is all brought up by Trump because he's trying to distract attention from his botched handling of the Jeffrey Epstein investigation and related conspiracy theories surrounding that.
Right. In fact, many Democrats seem to echo the sentiment that this is political vendetta, something you are also indicating, to draw attention away from what's happening with the Epstein files and how the whole MAGA support base is being sort of brought together to subside that. But the FBI's unwillingness to release the bombshell document, it stands in opposition to its eagerness to investigate Trump for alleged ties to Russia during the same time span, is something that the Iowa Republican has said. Ray, thanks so much, though, for joining us, as always. On that note, let's turn our attention now to our neighborhood, to Bangladesh, where at least 20 people were killed and over 160 injured when a Bangladesh Air Force plane hit a school and college campus in Dhaka on Monday. This crash in Bangladesh comes a month after the deadly Air India crash in our country, in India's Ahmedabad, which killed 260 people. But currently, as per a statement from the Bangladesh military, the pilot of the Chinese-made F-7 BGI aircraft was also killed in the crash, which occurred due to a mechanical failure as per preliminary reports. But Monday's jet crash was the deadliest in Bangladesh since 1984. You must note that the Chinese F-7s are actually the backbone of Bangladesh's fleet. At least 20 people, though, were killed and over 160 injured when this Bangladesh Air Force plane hit a school and college campus in Dhaka on Monday. My colleague Mohammed Ghazali has been tracking the story very closely. He joins us with a quick update at the moment. Ghazali, a high-level probe panel has now been set up to investigate this incident.
Yeah, the government has ordered a high-level probe. Also, today, Tuesday, one-day national mourning has been announced by the Bangladesh government. The high school board examinations were scheduled today, which has been postponed. This incident has also sort of brought the attention back to the issue of Chinese arms and ammunition or defense equipment, which Bangladesh has been procuring for a very long time. Because this was a trainer fighter jet fighter jet which was being used for training, and how just within 10 minutes after being into the air, it went and collapsed or sort of crashed into a school building nearby in a civilian area. So that's a bigger concern for the Bangladeshi government there, and that is why this probe has been ordered, because it has led to the killing of around more than 19 people and more than 100 people were injured. That also, like, it crashed right into a densely populated area. Dhaka is one of the most densely populated city in the world. So all this has brought the attention back to the issue that how these defense equipment being procured from countries like China. This was a Chinese F-7, which the Bangladesh government have been using for a very long time. So all this has to be probed, and that is why a probe panel has been set up by the Bangladesh government.
Thanks so much, Ghazali, for joining us with the key details. Moving on to other news, the FIDE Women's World Cup 2025 will provide a double bill of India-China clashes in the semi-finals after teenage sensation Divya Deshmukh triumphed over her more experienced compatriot Harika Dronawali in the quarter-final tie-breaks in Georgia, becoming only the second Indian ever to reach that stage of the elite competition. But the third edition of the FIDE Women's World Cup 2025 will now feature two Indians, Koneru Hampi and Divya, taking on two Chinese opponents, Lei Tingji and Tan Xiongyi, respectively, for a place in the final. It also guarantees India at least one spot in next year's candidates tournament that will decide the eventual challenger to women's world champion Zhu Wenjun, who has held the title since the year 2018. On that note, let's turn our attention to the £100 million F-35 that's stuck in Kerala. Well, after 5 weeks, the stranded UK fighter jet is to leave India as the technical glitch has been fixed. The British F-35B fighter jet, which has been grounded at the city airport in Thiruvananthapuram due to a technical snag since the 14th of June, is scheduled to leave today, as in Tuesday. A team of technicians who arrived from the UK, including those from the manufacturer, rectified the snag in its hydraulic system. Shivarur has the details for you.
After nearly 40 days on the ground, after more than 4 attempts by UK engineers to get it airworthy again, this stranded Royal Navy F-35B stealth fighter is finally, we are told, prepared to take to the skies and return home to the United Kingdom. 37 days grounded after it made an emergency landing on the 14th of June late in the night in Thiruvananthapuram in Kerala makes it one of the most unusual modern aviation stories. An F-35 is a very, very advanced 5th generation stealth fighter, not an aircraft you see stranded on the ground for, an extended period of time. And yet here it was, simply with crews simply unable to fix it and get it airworthy to fly back to the United Kingdom. The aircraft's mothership, the HMS Prince of Wales, has since departed the Arabian Sea. So it's not like it's waiting around for the aircraft. But this F-35B, if it does take off today, and we wish the crew cruise absolutely the best and happy landings and happy takeoff. But if it does manage to go, it is not known just yet where the aircraft is going to be taken. Presumably, the F-35 will have to fly somewhere in the Middle East, to one of the NATO bases where it can be serviced and refueled, and then make a hopping sort of trajectory until it reaches the United Kingdom to its home base, where it can finally be inspected in full.
Well, news and updates continue in a moment, right after this very short commercial break. See you. Well, Harvard University is in federal court now to make the case that US President Donald Trump's administration illegally cut $2.6 billion from the storied college. It is a pivotal moment in the school's battle against the federal government. And if US District Judge Allison decides in the university's favor, the ruling would reverse a series of funding freezes that later became outright cuts as the Trump administration escalated its fight with the nation's oldest and wealthiest university. Such a ruling, if it stands, would revive Harvard's sprawling scientific and medical research operation and hundreds of projects that lost federal money. Speaking of Harvard, Gita Gopinath, the #2 official at the International Monetary Fund, will leave her post at the end of August to return to Harvard University. The IMF managing director will name a successor to Gopinath in due course. This is what their official statement says. But Ms. Gopinath joined the fund in 2019 as chief economist, the first woman to serve in that role, and was promoted to first deputy managing director in January 2022. No comment was immediately available from the US Treasury, which manages the dominant US shareholding in the IMF. Meanwhile, US retailer Costco Wholesale will open its first tech center in India in Hyderabad, as per reports. The Global Capability Center, handling tech and research operations and working alongside global teams, will initially employ 1,000 people and then scale up. This is what reports added. India, as you know, is already home to some of the global marquee brands having their GCC operations in India. This includes companies such as JP Morgan Chase, Walmart and Target in Bengaluru, while Hyderabad has also hosted companies like McDonald's, Heineken and Vanguard Group. US hotel hiring managers ordered more background checks in the first half of 2025 compared with the same period in 2024 amid growing scrutiny of foreign-born workers in the hospitality industry, according to a leading human resources and recruitment management company report. In June, the US Department of Homeland Security said it was reversing guidance issued that immigration and customs enforcement agents were not to conduct immigration raids at farms, hotels and restaurants. But Donald Trump has sought to end temporary legal status for hundreds of thousands of migrants in the United States and vowed to deport millions of undocumented people in the country. In other news, oil was little changed after two modest declines as talks between the US and its trading partners gain urgency ahead of next week's deadline. Meanwhile, US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the next round of US-China talks could include a discussion of Beijing's purchases of Russian and Iranian oil. That could hamper progress as Russia is China's biggest source of crude. Meanwhile, the car company behind the brands Jeep and Fiat say that US President Donald Trump's tariffs have already costed 300 million euros or 349 million US dollars. Stellantis said the financial hit was a result of tariffs impacting trade and the company's loss of planned production in its response to them. But a 25% tariff on cars being imported to the US has been placed since April, and Trump's policy decision has threatened to actually affect global car trade and supply chains. Let's turn our attention now to Syria, where as part of a ceasefire agreement to return calm to the southern Syrian province of Sweda, the Syrian government said it was evacuating hundreds of Bedouin tribal families from the area after more than a week of deadly clashes. Also, by the way, on Monday, the government said it had deployed security forces across the province to secure the area and protect civilians. But more than 1,100 people were killed in 8 days of violence, according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, which is actually a British-based organization. In other news, China has pledged support to Nepal for reconstructing infrastructure damaged by recent floods in the Rasua district and restoring customs operations as well. The Nepal-China Friendship Bridge connecting the two nations, along with several hydropower projects and a dry port, was severely impacted by flash floods that struck in July on the 8th to be precise. And the assurance came during a meeting between Nepal's finance minister and a Chinese delegation that was led by the chairman of the China International Development Cooperation Agency.